Sorry I couldn't save you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, nice try,
Yeah,
Mr.
I'm down
Sweat,
too.
but I'm a bigger sweat than you. Have you just returned to COD after a failure of Battlefield 5 and wondered how come everyone is so damn good now? Have you ever tried ranking up a gun only to get completely destroyed, but in the next game you strangely find yourself at the top of the leaderboards? Trying your best, but your opponents always just seem that little bit better? Congratulations, you're not alone, so don't despair. Skill-based matchmaking is just touching you in your no-no square. In this video, I'll go over what exactly skill-based matchmaking is and why it has been introduced despite being largely loathed by the Call of Duty player base. Before we get stuck in though, I'm currently trying to reach 1,000 subs, so please consider hitting that sub button. Every sub is greatly appreciated and I have plenty of content in the pipeline as we push through Season 1. So what exactly is skill-based matchmaking? In short, skill-based matchmaking is matchmaking which is determined by a player's skill, or more correctly by what is called an MMR, or matchmaking rating. An MMR is created by taking player statistics and using them to devise a matchmaking rating. So how do we get a matchmaking rating? Well, I'm just using this as an example and I'm pretty sure the ones used by Call of Duty, their formulas would be a hell of a lot complicated. Now I'm pretty terrible at maths, so please forgive me, but this is just a quick little MMR calculator that I've devised. For my MMR calculator here, I've just gathered the main player statistics such as kill-death ratio, your score per minute, your kills per minute, and your accuracy and average kills. Now we can't just add these sums together because, for example, your kill-death ratio is a lot more important than your accuracy stat, therefore they cannot be held with the same value. In order to solve this problem, I've grouped together the three main statistics: your kill-death ratio, your score per minute, and your kills per minute. Now I'm going to times these figures together. And now for the other two statistics, your shot accuracy and your average kills per game, as these figures are less important, we'll only plus these two figures together. Now after some quick Windows calculations, because I'm a lazy millennial and can't do anything myself, we come up with these following figures. Now timesing together the three important stats here equals 460. And after we plus the 19.2 and the 18.3 together, we end up with 37.5. You can see now how this formula works to prioritise kills per minute, KD, and your score per minute over the lesser statistics. Now all that we need to do is simply plus those two figures together to bring us to our player's MMR, which in this case is 497.5. Now that we've sorted out our MMR, it's time to see how an MMR works in skill-based matchmaking. The graph you see before you is a bell curve graph which shows the approximate skill as well as the number of players at a certain skill across a community. The little dotted line there I'll talk about later, and that has something to do with the reasons why skill-based matchmaking has been implemented. Now what most people don't talk about is the fact that there are multiple types of skill-based matchmaking, and not all of them are bad. What players mostly complain about is strict skill-based matchmaking. Now I'll demonstrate that in this graph here. The space between each one of those green lines represents a lobby, and your MMR figure is used to determine which lobby you're put in. As you can see, the players are highly segregated and judging by their skill, or MMR. This is strict skill-based matchmaking in a nutshell. But what about less strict skill-based matchmaking? Is there such a thing? Yes there is. And this is what it looks like. As you can see, the space in between the green lines, same as before, represents a potential lobby. But the difference here is you have players at various skill levels playing together. This is what I believe this dev meant in this tweet here, saying that there's always been skill-based matchmaking in COD. What is left out, either deliberately or unintentionally, is that the skill-based matchmaking has changed from this lesser skill-based matchmaking into this super restrictive tight skill-based matchmaking. If I say skill-based matchmaking one more time, I swear my head's going to explode. This is what everyone is complaining about. Well, most people anyway. So why do we have skill-based matchmaking? According to the devs, it's to do with something known as churn, or player turnover. Churn is when a player plays the game for a little bit but doesn't like it, so closes the game and goes and plays something else. According to the data the devs have, strict skill-based matchmaking reduces player churn. If you don't have any players playing, you're not going to make any money through microtransactions. What we must remember is generally the people who make these kind of decisions are not people who play the game. All they do is sit on their chairs in their offices looking at statistics all day. They have no idea if the game that they are working for is any good at all. All they know is what's in front of them on their monitors, and it certainly isn't Call of Duty. I feel this is a reason why a lot of the devs don't understand, well, not the devs, the people who implement skill-based matchmaking do not understand why we hate it so much. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if there are a lot of good devs out there that know how much we hate skill-based matchmaking, or the majority of players hate skill-based matchmaking, and try their hardest to get through to the corporate heads who make the calls about its implementation to get rid of it or at least reduce it. But at the end of the day, companies are always going to be chasing a dollar, and they'll do whatever it takes to keep their players spending money on microtransactions. The only players who are generally better off under skill-based matchmaking are those with a lower MMR. Now, if we look at the bell curve, once again, this is where we come up with a problem. You should see the majority of players are average players. While they're not as badly affected as the higher matchmaking rating players, they're still not going to like it, I feel. And I'm a middle ground player myself, and I hate it. The only way I can account for this discrepancy is if I adjust the bell curve to include more low MMR players than there are high MMR players. If we adjust the bell curve accordingly, the results look like this, and skill-based matchmaking from a statistical side seems to make a little more sense. But to get to the crux of the issue, the majority of players don't like skill-based matchmaking. Why don't we like it? Because if you're playing with everyone the same skill as you, the little things start to make a hell of a lot of difference. Whether that be your gun, your positioning, all those things matter that lot more than they would if it was a loose matchmaking system. It's because of skill-based matchmaking we see super metas form, such as the MP5, the Kilo, all those god guns. Everyone's using them. Why? Because they want to squeeze that little bit extra out of their gameplay. It also has the effect of taking the fun out of it. Players play a lot more passively because they know if they push they're going to get completely ruined. So what does everyone do? They don't camp, but they'll crouch walk around, they'll play a lot slower, a lot more defensively, for God forbid they have a bad round. The end result is they do pretty well. But there's a problem with that. They keep their position in skill-based matchmaking because their MMR does not go down. I often theorise that there's definitely, if you go well in a game in the top 3, you get put into the next bracket for a go. But if you get absolutely stomped, like I do regularly, you get put down a notch. And this is also a problem because this brings up the topic of reverse boosting, where people do things such as sit in spawn and dynamite themselves just to get an easy game. A lot of the YouTubers do it just so they can post those amazing high kill games onto YouTube. I don't do it. The closest thing I do to reverse boosting is trying to rank up the Striker 45. That was a complete nightmare. That's about the only reverse boosting I've done. But what of the low MMR players? Surely they need representation too. Well, the thing is, a lot of us have started off as complete bots in this game, not knowing what to do, where to go. We all started from scratch. The only way we got good was be regularly stomped by better opponents, and eventually we learn what they do, their ways, and we get better and grow ourselves. Skill-based matchmaking stops this to a large degree. It keeps low MMR players from developing. It stops them getting better and keeps them at the bottom of the barrel. Sometimes in life you need a good stomping to tell you you're doing things wrong. And this is not going to happen with strict skill-based matchmaking. Now, don't for a second think that I'm advocating for gods like the gaming definition to play with complete bots, because it will be an absolute bloodbath, but hear me out on this. What we need to have is the low level players be given a chance to play with more middle ground players. That's how these players will learn and become middle ground players themselves. And then, by the same method, the middle ground players play with the best players. And then, with a little bit of determination, they too will become the best players. You see, the only secret to first person shooters is, doesn't matter how bad you are, you can always become a total god. It just takes an incredible amount of determination and effort and time. You must learn from every little mistake you've made. Everything you're doing wrong, you need to look at it and improve it. Everything must come up. With enough time, you will do it. But the problem is, a lot of people don't have the time. But there's nothing stopping your low level player from becoming a decent player. That is pretty easy to do with a bit of time. Anyway, thank you for listening to my sermon. If you liked it, feel free to give a thumbs up. If you disliked it, thumbs down, tell me I'm a piece of shit. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm Late Rage, and I'll see you all in the next video. Psst, please subscribe. I need subs. Please help.